Hello. Today I'll be going over the final of the Warframes that are out currently, Nezha here. So for Archon Shards, we have 2 Tau Forged Blue Health Shards, 1 Tau Forged Red Ability Strength Shard, and ideally 2 Tau Forged Purple Equilibrium Shards. However, I just have 1. As you'll see from this build, 1 does work, although to make it more consistent, I do recommend 2. One thing to note, you can run 2 normal blue shards for this build, as well as for your ability strength shard. This is optional. You can run really whatever you want here. I just run ability strength for a different build. So, if you're wondering why we need health shards, it is because we're using Basmu here, and we are specifically using the augment Dreadful Killshot. To max this out, get the max damage and sass chance at 360%, we need at least 1200 health. And we can reach that by using 2 normal blue shards and Archon Vitality, which is what we are doing. As you can see, we are also using primary overcharge here. That is because originally with this build I was just using the Basmu without the augment to apply statuses via Divine Retribution to all spirit enemies. And then that innate heat damage, or innate heat status from Basmu made the Spear Explosion scale by 1.5 times of remaining statuses. So it kind of was very nice, and then Dreadful Killshot came out, made the build even better, and then Primary Overcharge came out, making it actually kind of viable and not just sort of a meme experimental thing. So yeah, for this build, for Primary Overcharge, we basically need to stay above 90% energy, as well as we need above 1000 energy to max it out. There's sort of 2 variations. One makes it so you can actually hit the max. You can get up to like 1100 energy, so you can max out Overcharge. However, you don't consistently stay above 90% energy. Whereas the other one is much more energy economy focused. Well, focused. It's basically just changing the arcane in the build. And you stay around 294% multi-shot. However, you are much more consistently at max energy. So, for the build here. These 2. First thing, this and Vigilante Pursuit can be whatever you want. I have this polarized like this for a different build. So if you want to replace this with probably Cunning Drift, because we already have enough strength to kill things very quickly with Roar and 2 and 4, if you don't want to use Basmu. So Cunning Drift here, and then you can put whatever you want here if you want to keep it with the armor to get that probably 1%, 1 to 2% more whatchamacallit, overcharge you can. Always my armor affects overcharge because we're using Arcane Battery here. Third of our armor goes to energy, basically. And yeah, besides that, we are using Fiber and Intensify to get more armor. Continuity, Transient Fortitude, just to keep above duration, get some strength. Don't want to use Blind Rage because we don't want to. We're going to be casting our abilities fairly often, and that negative ability efficiency will make us constantly drop below the 90% energy. Flow again for energy, Archon stretch for some range for our 4 here, so we can get more people on spears, but also so we can get that energy per second. And then Vitality, so that status effects, heat statuses have their damage applied twice. We have Roar as this double dips on status damage, and basically everything on this build is based around status damage. So the optional arcane here, as you saw, Circumvent is 1. This allows you to roll through enemies and get up to 1000 armor and 10,000 overguard, which will max out our arcane battery and get us to 1100 armor or 1100 energy. Or you can use Energize, at which you will be stuck at 294% multi-shot for overcharge. However, this will make it so you basically are just constantly at max energy when combined with Archon Stretch, Zenric's energy economy, and our equilibrium shards. So it depends what you want to do. If you find that you have more than enough energy and you can just run Circumvent, then go for that. Another option besides Circumvent is basically anyone that gives you armor. So if you wanted to run Guardian, you could as well. If you wanted to run Reaper and do more melee focused, although that kind of defeats the purpose of this, so yeah, if you wanted to run Guardian, you could do Guardian, but Circumvent is just much easier to proc and it gives you more armor. But yeah, that's basically it. For Companion, we are using Doriga. We have Synth Deconstruct, so we get those orbs for our Equilibrium Shards. Then we have Arc Coil with Manifold Bond to apply all of the statuses from our Tazacore through Arc Coil, but then we also have Tazacore itself, so that it does Viral Electric, Radiation Magnetic. This is where a majority of our electric statuses will come from to activate Archon Stretch. But this also does do Viral Priming and Radiation Priming. The reason I mentioned Radiation Priming is because another thing for energy economy you could do, if you wanted to, is... where is it? Is Universal Fallout. 6% chance to drop a Universal Orb on death per radiation status chance, so at 10, it's a 60% chance for an enemy to drop a Universal Orb. They'll probably hover around 4 to 5 with Tazacore, so you're getting about like a 30% chance per enemy to get a Universal Orb. Universal Orbs, I do not believe they trigger... They might trigger Zeneric's thing. I know Zeneric's Energy Pulse only does not trigger through like Equilibrium on health orbs and stuff like that, so I'm not sure what it does with Universal Orbs. But yeah, that is another option to use here if instead of Energize, if you want to go for the non-max Overcharge build. However, just to show off the max Overcharge, I will be using Circumvent for the showcase. I'll also be just sticking with these two, but again, if you want to put Cunning Drift, you can get a wider range for your spears and for your 2. And then you can put whatever you want here. If you want to leave this here, you can as well. Yeah, for the other weapons, using Furious for Acolytes, and then just a basic melee influence, Sete Lacera. No reason for it, just didn't have anything else really. And it goes good with any melee influence, goes good with Roar, because again, Roar double dips on statuses, including the electric procs from melee influence. So as I said before, this is the final Warframe that's currently out that I'm going over. So I will not be doing anything else until Folly comes out in a few days here. And then probably a couple days after she comes out, I will then have some sort of build on her, but we shall see.
And the enemy calls for a song.
So for the first bit of the build here, obviously we do not have any energy, so we're not going to have Overcharge or anything up. Although as you see, we do already have Dreadful Killshot because we are sitting above that 1200 health. Speaking about health, I guess I didn't really go over survivability. Survivability is just using another reason why I like Circumvent. Good survivability. Gives us that 1000 armor and 10,000 overguard. And I believe Nezha's 3 applies to Overguard from Circumvent, so it actually makes you very, very tanky. So I do highly recommend using Circumvent over Energize. So as you can see, obviously we do still get energy very consistently. However, I'm not really casting abilities currently. Wait till we get up to that 1100 energy before I start. Oh, let me just get my Furious ready for when the Acolyte spawns. Oh, there's more than enough to get an Acolyte. Oh, so this is going to be without. As you can see, you kind of just shoot one enemy and everybody on a spear kind of just explodes. So if you were to roll through, one thing to note, when you do roll, even if you have max energy, rolling will increase your energy, so then you lose the max energy. So, or you lose the 90% energy that you have. So you're technically no longer at the point for Overcharge. Oh, he took my... That's me. Put it back. Yep, there we go. Get Roar up. Let's get our 4 up. And here we go with the max. So you can see what I was talking about now when I was saying with Energize, you'll have it much more consistently than with Circumvent. Well, this is obviously still doing damage and still doing the sort of interaction I'm looking for. I don't really have that max 1000 energy up most of the time. Mostly on me. I'm kind of in the roll here, but there we go. You can see it there with the max 350 and with everything up. Trying to look for enemies. Here's some enemies here. Roll 4. And as you can see, even though I shot here, everybody back here also just exploded due to them being on the spears. Yeah, so very fun, it's actually viable. It used to not really be viable, it used to sort of just be a meme, but very much actually use the missions now if you wanted to. Let's see, because, one thing to note is because Tazakor, since Doriga triggers its arc pulse so often, it's actually very good with, I forget the name of it, but the Mystic Bond? Yeah, Mystic Bond. Which every time your companion triggers 5 of its sort of abilities, you get a free cast of one of your abilities. Which makes it so, as you can see, I'm getting some free casts, and that combined with, I believe it's once every 2 minutes on Zenrik, you get a free ability cast. So those both help a lot with with keeping Overcharged up as well. Although I'm not actually sure if I'm running Mystic Bond on this, so that's something. Replace. Probably. I think I have Momentous Bond on this. Probably replace like Momentous Bond with Mystic Bond. Yeah, so primary fires, if you wanted to do something like electric and just didn't really care about the extra blast thing that it gives you, you can also do it with electric. And as you saw there, within half a second I got about 600 electric procs on an enemy. And that also, like I said before, applies to every enemy speared, so you're basically just instantly applying hundreds of energy procs to enemies. So here's an Acolyte. So you'll see the Basmu is okay with Acolytes, but this is why I bring a Furus. Where are they? Oh, that broke my thing. As you can see, it does damage, but not nearly as much as just Furusing them. So, we recommend that Furus, Latum. Both of those are very good, and I bring Lex also very good for dealing with Acolytes.
These manifestations,
oh, where are those guys?
Destroy them. They are drawing from your life support.
But yeah, that is basically it. Thank you for watching.